Hello, Lissa DeHart here, and welcome to the Coaching Studio. Today in the studio, it's my pleasure to introduce Ihab Badawi. He is a master certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. He is a certified marketing expert and a certified franchise expert. Ihab is a corporate advisor and leadership coach with over 22 years of experience in international business management, corporate transformation, and international business development. He is a catalyst of change and the founder of the Coaches Circle Academy, which enables coaches to create deep impact and instill positive change. His exposure from operating in 58 markets around the globe fuels his capacity to connect with others and bridge cultural gaps. Ihab is now based in Vancouver, British Columbia, where he resides with his wife and his 3 beautiful daughters. He has an upcoming book in the second quarter of 2022 called Transcendence Leadership Coach. Did I say that correct, Ihab?
Yeah, so it's going to be the Transcendence Leader Coach. Yeah.
Okay, Transcendence Leader Coach. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you so much for being on the Coaching Studio. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's my pleasure, Lisa. I'm so glad to be part of this mission that you are on. And I'm inspired by the effort that you're doing, actually.
Well, thank you very much. Well, it has been such a joy because I have this opportunity to ask these questions of these amazing coaches. And so to that end, let's go. I'm always fascinated by the journey that a person takes to become an MCC coach and to really spend the time and energy and investment of themselves into something so deeply. And I'd love to hear a bit of what your evolution into coaching has been.
It was a quite great journey, actually. I was in the corporate world trying to make the best that I can for my team. And we were in sales, marketing, business development. This is the commercial aspect that we were in. And it just hit me after a few years down the road, looking at all the success that we had. And it wasn't about strategy. It wasn't about the implementation that we were having. It was about how we were able to coach and develop our team internally so that they can evolve to be better leaders as well. And they have done a great achievements. And this just hit me that coaching is one of the most transformative approaches that a leader can take. And since then, I embarked on this journey, and I've been addicted to that journey since. It led me to leave the corporate world and establish an entity to support other leaders across the globe. We went through the process of going into professional coaching, embracing the ICF coaching competencies, because I wanted a kind of a disciplined framework so that to make sure that we are on the right track, coaching people with the right standard, and have that codes of ethics embedded in the profession that we are having. And it has been a great journey since.
You know, and something that you just said, which is, I think, really important, because I speak to a lot of people, as do you, and there is a sense of, you know, anybody can call themselves a coach. And one of the things that I heard you really bring up is this framework as well as a code of ethics. How did having a code of ethics shift the way that you were working with people?
Oh, it's actually a great I would say compass for you to be able to know where do you stand in relation to your client. And having a codes of ethics actually disciplines the coaching profession as a whole. As you know, in many parts of the world, coaching is actually in its maturing or developing state. And therefore, making sure that coaching as a profession is governed by the codes of ethics allows more safety and a more safe environment for the client to operate in, and for the coach to have a kind of a compass. Where do I stand? How far can I go with my client? And where can I be of better service? And at what point I need to refer my client to a specialist, or where do I draw the line for the benefit of the client?
Right. Yeah, and I find that very much the same. It's a beautiful compass. And I was reading something recently about how that with the changes in the competencies that have happened in the last year or so, that really looking at how coaches demonstrate staying in the coach role versus jumping into consultant or jumping into educator or jumping into XYZ. What was that transition like for you? Because I mean, most of us come to a certain age in our life, probably 7 years old, and we think we're now the experts in everything. And I'm wondering how coaching how you've allowed yourself to let go of some of that so that you can really be with your clients.
So that's a brilliant question. And that's why now currently I'm so much immersed into coaching wholeness and vulnerability, and this is what we do at the Coaches Circle Academy, is that we spend lots of time, and I'm so glad with the ICF stressing the point of having a coaching mindset, which actually it connects a lot with the codes of ethics as well, and how you need to be present with the client and focusing with the client as a whole. And what's interesting about that is that when I started transitioning from corporate, I established the first company, and we were too much into consulting because we carry lots of experience with us. And we used to, if you allow me, just because this is very important to highlight for how coaching is important and how does it transform your business and other people as well. So we were consulting for a group of companies across the GCC, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Dubai. And we felt that we need to integrate more support to the client. So integrated training as well. So consulting would provide the solution, training would ensure that they have the skill set to implement. But there was always something missing. And this is where coaching completed the whole circle, because coaching was all about changing the mindset of the CEO or the C-suite or the directors of the middle management. So this allowed sustainability. And the interesting part is that for me to be able to do so, I had to go into a transition myself. I was so much in the consulting mindset before. So we know we are experts. We come in, we give the advice, and we are really looking for the proper impact for the client. But going into the coaching field, and I must admit that when I started going into the real coaching world, after the second model, I said, you know what, I'm going to drop out. I'm going to drop out because I'm so much hung up to the consulting side of the business. And then at one moment, I remember one of the models, I was so much immersed in it, and I was able to tap on that vulnerability. And since then, it transformed the way as a coach would connect with the client, being always vulnerable, being always open, not to know what's there, and being in the not knowing approach would allow you to embrace the fact that you need to have a safe environment for you and the client to explore. And there is nothing to really just, I want to find out, or the client has to find out. It will come on its own because you believe that your client has it with him. Yeah. And therefore you are able to embrace that environment.
Yeah, the thing that you're speaking to that is, I think, so important, which is we can't keep anything that we don't generate out of our own minds. And so you can have a consultant come in and tell you what you need to do and even give you training so that you can do it. But if you don't find a way to embody it for yourself, as soon as you're stressed out, it's gone, right? It just disappears. And and what you're speaking to also, at least for me, I can very much relate to, which is it is an emotional shift to let go of that ego of knowing. I know what you need to do. I know how you need to do it. Let me tell you how to fix a XYZ, right? And so I love hearing that. What was that journey like? Because I mean, you went from I presume, and I'm making an assumption here, so please correct me, but ACC to PCC to MCC, what was that journey arc like for you? Because there's a lot of correlations in that journey as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was a really transcending journey for me, because it was about embracing that not knowing approach and really accepting that, you know what, I'm starting a new profession, and no matter how high you were in the corporate world, no matter what you know, it is so nice to start embracing unlearning to learn, that concept of, you know what, I'm into the not knowing. And I'm into that wonder of wanting to know more and expanding my knowledge in that approach. And really being at that moment, accepting and embracing that allowed me to enjoy every step of the way. So I went into my professional training, into coaching, and it was the first day that I took a decision that I would like to go directly to the PCC. So when I enrolled for the whole process to the PCC. And because I was so much involved in corporate coaching, which allowed me to sharpen my skills while being trained. So we finalized the first journey, but didn't apply for the ACC. I went directly for the PCC. So I continued my training while coaching. And after that, when I acquired my PCC and started more shifting my time from consulting and training. The team was more into consulting and training, and I was more focused into one-to-one coaching with executives and group coaching. And I started loving more and more training people also and inviting them to the coaching field, because it was transforming me as a person, and it shifted all our approach. And if I can say now, we don't just like we have three kinds of services: corporate consulting, on culture re-engineering. We do training, corporate training and development, and we have the executive coaching. I would say now confidently that we do consulting coaching, or coaching consulting and coaching training, because we embedded coaching into consulting and into training, not the other way around. Because as a consultant, you can coach while you're consulting, but as a coach, you cannot consult.
You know what? Please speak more to that, because I hear people all the time, I'm a consultant, and so therefore they have a framework, they have an idea of what that means. But you're saying it's coaching with elements of consulting. How do you tell me? Speak more.
Well, actually, we embedded coaching in consulting, but we didn't allow consulting to come to coaching. So when we are completely in the coaching zone. But what I saw, and we developed new programs to support people, like if you're a consultant and you want to upscale your consulting impact, okay, you can embed coaching into consulting. And I saw it is a game changer, because when you as a consultant coming to your client, as a consultant, you position yourself as an expert and you provide the solution, okay, and you provide all the answers. But if you're a consultant with a coach's mindset, you would be more inquisitive, you would be more appreciative of what the client already has, and you can build on that and allow really the client to tap on untapped potential inside. And when it comes to trainers, for example, when they embrace that coach's mindset as well, when they are training, it's not only about transferring the knowledge, it's about what we call generative learning. So you become coming in with a generative learning approach. So you use that power of powerful inquiry and disruptive questions to allow the learning to come from within the room, rather than come from the facilitator himself. And that is also a game changer as well. So when it comes to coaching and consulting, there's lots of discussions, as you said, Lisa, now as to how far can the coach go when it comes to sharing, for example, a story with the client, or mentioning something that has happened with the coach as well during the coaching process. My personal take would be, if you're a consultant, during that story, you can embed your coaching to get things outside of the client from within. But as a coach, I wouldn't recommend touching base on stories and sharing parts of the elements of the coach's experience, because borderline, it might be leading indirectly.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that also because it's so, this is sort of my 2 cents. I think anytime we ask a question, we're leading somebody somewhere. We can't help it because we've now primed the pump with the question for something. And so I really have a feeling that the more we can take ourselves out of the question in the sense of, what are you noticing? Yeah, I'm leading you towards your noticing, but I don't know the answer. So kind of to your earlier point, it's being in that space of asking questions I don't know the answer to. Right.
Absolutely. And yeah, actually, I'm glad you touched base on that. We were having our training and our academy training for the PCC actually, and we were diving into evoking awareness. And part of that is going into disruptive questions and creating an awakening for the client. Mm-hmm. And the discussion was like, all right, how would we really differentiate sometimes between a question that might lead the client somewhere? For example, weighing options, like if you stress one option more than the other, this might indirectly mean for the client that you are leading there. So the idea, how do you create the balance? And as you said, is that's quite moving yourself away from the question and making sure that, is this a question coming from a complete wonder, or it comes from a geared curiosity towards a certain aspect?
Yeah. And I think that's it, right? That complete wonder and again, the not knowing the answer, nor having an agenda that's moving the client towards a specific outcome. Like, hey, Hebe, I think you need to learn this. So I'm going to ask you questions to try and elicit this out of you, right? A very different kind of inquiry. I hear a lot of passion in the work that you're doing. I hear your excitement and enthusiasm as you're talking, and I love it. How do you keep that alive inside of yourself? How do you do that?
So interesting that you asked me this question actually, and this is the blessing that I had by moving into a field when you are so much doing things that you are passionate about. So if you do what you love, then you wouldn't feel that you are working any day of your life. So I wouldn't consider that we are doing any work. I would say that we are living part of the process, growing while supporting others to grow. And that was part of my finding my own purpose and my own mission and vision in what do I want to do. I would say that it comes just because I'm doing what I really love. And when I'm able to contribute to others, actually, and this is the way I approach anything that I do. If I'm able to contribute and create impact, mm-hmm. I would believe that I'm growing, and gives me the internal motivation. And from a business perspective, I never think of the financial returns, because I have a great belief that if you create that impact, financial returns are going to come anyways. So this frees me as a person and as a coach from any expectations and any worry. I don't have to worry about how things are going to turn, because I'm really showing up to my clients as really for them rather than for my own profession. Yeah. And the more I'm authentic about it, the more it provides a kind of an indirect return of allowing people to accept that authenticity and actually appreciating it. And it flows. So I would say every day when I wake up, I said, you know what, I want to grow. And part of my growth is seeing my clients grow. And this is how the cycle goes.
Yeah. And it continues to your point earlier, generatively sustain you, because there's that constant generative flow happening between you and the experience that you're having. You've mentioned something a little bit earlier, which is at some point in your coach development, you're like, oh, forget it. I'm not going to do this. This is right. How did you get past that? Because I meet a lot of coaches who are like, I don't want to have to coach like that. Like, I have to give up everything that I know in order to be a coach, like that, like the ICF wants me to be a coach. How did you navigate through that discomfort?
Actually, it was quite interesting days. At that point, I stood up. I came to the room leader, we used to call them, in front of the room leader, and I went up and I said, you know what, I'm gonna wait till the end of the day, but I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna show up tomorrow. And even though I signed up for the whole program, but I don't feel that it's me. Still, my approach was, you know what, I don't pretend that I know, but I come from a logical pattern, and you are talking about opening up. I want to be in the executive coaching. What does it mean for me to opening up and embracing my own emotions and opening up for emotion for the client? I don't want to go there. And his advice, and I really thank him for that, he said, like, just give it one more day and just let it be. And that is the point where the second day we talked about vulnerability. And then I knew the power as a leader, how much you can evolve by being vulnerable. And as a human being, at the end of the day, and this took a lot of research from me, because now I advocate that if you're in the corporate or life coaching or executive coaching, it doesn't matter. There is the human being behind that. You're not coaching the topic, and that human being is a combination between the emotion and the cognitive realization. So no matter what you do, the emotions are going to be part of that. And I just unlocked the third day, and I really thank him for that. And since then, I was more powerful in terms of even showing up as a leader, because I'm okay with being vulnerable.
Right. And when you say vulnerability, the thing that really shows up for me is this capacity also to be transparent, right? This transparency of whatever it is. I'm struggling here, or this is how I understand something, however that plays out. You've just said something also about we're not coaching situations, we're coaching people. And I've heard varying themes on this. I have my own, but I really think it's such a powerful reminder that we can get really stuck in the minutia of the situation, but the situation is the situation, and probably none of us have any control over it. So how do we want to be in relationship to the situation that we find ourselves in? And so I really appreciate you sharing that also through your own experience of like, okay, if vulnerability is required, how will I be in relationship with my vulnerability so that I can expand that out to the people that I work with? And that makes me wonder also about the vulnerability that leaders really need to demonstrate in order to really not only have a vision, but to get followers to that vision, to have a vision that's big enough to actually have people want to work for it. What have you seen where leaders are able to transcend, but by that sort of vulnerability and transparency?
Absolutely. The way I've experienced it, that whether in the Middle East or India subcontinent or ASEAN or China, getting involved with different types of leaders and having the pleasure also to contribute for the evolution of certain leaders all across these. And the biggest impact was seeing also the cultural differences, also like operating in China, operating in India subcontinent and the Middle East, and looking and America and Europe, and seeing the different mindsets. One common thing is that if you are a leader with a vision, the key here is to transform your vision to become a shared vision. And a shared vision needs to be embraced by others, which brings you to inclusion. I would put more weight on inclusion more than diversity, because if you are inclusive, that means ipso facto, you are embracing diversity. Because if I want to include people, I wouldn't care for age, race, sex, whatever. All right, it's about including everybody in. And to invite people and include them in your vision, you need to be vulnerable, because if you are a vulnerable leader, that means you would accept not knowing and accept more even advanced concept of that. If you're vulnerable, that means you wouldn't mind requesting support.
Right.
And requesting support would reciprocate by them accepting you as a leader, trusting you that you are opening up for that team. So that's the key here, actually, which allows a leader to have a more empowered vision by opening up and say, you know what, this is my vision, and I would love everybody to contribute. And guess what? I don't know everything.
Yes.
You to contribute.
Yeah, and from my perspective, that's really that sense of confidence where a leader can say, I don't know everything. And I really want to have all of these different perspectives so that I can see what is going to be most resonance. I think, there's a quote that says, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? And it's that sense of how do we invite that the disciplines of different perspectives. And how did you say that? Because I really enjoyed that. It's not so much about in diversity, it's about inclusion, because by including people, we're by ipso facto going to have more diversity. And I think it really takes that leader as coach. I mean, and here's where that coaching mindset of that self-reflective process maybe even comes in for leaders, where somebody's going to share something that maybe we disagree with. And yet we want that to show up in the space because it may be beneficial to our ultimate vision and outcome. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you want to take it into a leadership concept or perspective,
please.
Allowing the team to share things that are possibly not taken into consideration by you or don't fit your agenda as a leader at the end of the day, or don't fit your project, but being open to allow people to contribute. And it will open two things. Number one, them feeling the sense of engagement because at least they've let something out and they saw that there is a listener there. And that's why I advocate the leader coach, because it's not about you knowing, it's about you actually listening, appreciating the team by listening to them and accepting what they have. You don't have to embrace it, you don't have to implement it, but the idea is to allow them to be engaged and share. This is one. Second, allowing them the chance to contribute to that vision, even in like 0.1%, but for them, we have contributed as being listened to, and possibly we shaped parts of that. And third would be for the leader, that no matter what, you would be touched, you would be shaped by the contribution of others.
Yeah. What I'm seeing words behind you, inspire, believe, partnership, knowledge, clarity, enlightenment, nurturing, growth, awakening. And I'm also thinking trust. It's in trusting your people, right? To give that trust so that they can trust you back as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like these words, actually, this is interesting. We created this during the ICW. And we were sitting with the team and we were connected virtually because some of them are in other parts of the world. And we said, you know what, in the ICW, we want to contribute. So we wanna support, and what is the message that we want? And we sat down and said, what is our academy all about? And forget the academy even, what's our message? And our message is about transcendence coaching. And what is transcendence coaching all about? And we started like scribbling all of these points and talking about from the heart, what comes to you as a team. And everybody contributed their words, and it ended up with this one. And you touched on an extremely important point, is the issue of trust. Some people approach their team, approach the people. And this is very important as coaches, by the way. If you are used to letting people prove that they are trustworthy, then you will fall short as a coach.
Yes.
As a coach, as a true leader coach, for example, you need to approach people with the trust in mind. There is nothing for you to prove. You know what? Trust is in the air. I would provide trust, and this will be inviting for people to reciprocate. So if I trust you and I come with a trusting mindset, actually, this leads to more assertive behavior for the leader, because this shows confidence. You are not waiting for indicators to trust people. Just embrace the people in front of you and trust them. Then deal with whatever shows up, because you might be really astonished. Because if you come with a skeptical mind, you are pushing people to avoid trust. But if you come with an open heart, you know what, I trust you and I trust your capability. And when I look at you, I'm not looking at the deficiencies or the weaknesses, forget them, or the development areas, just forget that. I'm looking at what the beauty in you, and the beauty comes in terms of your knowledge, in terms of how you show up, your personality, what can you contribute. And this will be great and inviting. And this is what gears us also with our clients. We come with a full trust put on the table, and luckily the client would also reciprocate that trust.
Yeah, well, and I absolutely agree with you, because I think, especially as a coach, if you're really trying to create that core competency for trust and safety, right? Without that trust that you bring to the client, that they're capable, whole, resourceful, creative, then they can never trust themselves either. Right. And so it is really the kind of the irony of how trust works. We must give it in order for not only to receive it, but for other people who don't believe in themselves yet to believe it for themselves as well. What do you think is something that all young coaches really need to hear from you?
There are lots of things that we can share. And I've gained a lot from other coaches as well. And I was lucky enough to, on my journey, to have met experienced coaches, and I've embraced what they have, and I've also built on what they have so that I can extend it even further. And I'm sure lots of coaches, when they come in, then hear us talking, for example, they might be inspired with one angle, they're going to take it far and stretch it. Mm-hmm. It depends how much they embrace a growth mindset. And for me, it's every day evolving. So there is nothing, and if a message I'm going to share with everyone who comes as part of my journey of developing as a coach, and them wanting to become coaches as well, one of the things is embracing a pure growth mindset. That means as a coach, it's not about the certification. Right. And since we are talking about masterful coaching or being an MCC, I say that you are able to be a masterful coach no matter what credentials do you have. The idea is to be masterful at the ACCM, masterful at the PCC, and masterful at the MCC. Definitely, it's a great journey to reach that level, and it's so much rewarding as well. But the core is, number one, remembering that you are here for the client and not for the situation. So even the balance, you remember we talk about the ACC, PCC, and MCC, the balance between the coaching the what, which is the issue at hand, and coaching the who. I would say embrace coaching as coaching the who from the start, and look at the client and be with the client. Trust yourself, trust your training, trust the process. But coaching is not about, when we say a formal or a disciplined profession, it's a disciplined profession with a scope, but you are so much flexible in between. Yeah. All right. Let it be in the moment and just be present. So presence and the coach's mindset are two things that go hand in hand. And for me, they build the other competencies. Because if I'm present, I'm able to show up in the moment and connect with my client. This will yield into trust and safety, because your client is not going to trust you if he doesn't see that somebody is here for him or her. That means you are sitting across your client and you are totally connected with the client. This is rewarding and empowering. This is extremely important. Mm-hmm. And in our training, we spend a lot of time on building partnership and presence. That's And then trust and safety evolves out of that. And from there, due to your presence, your active listening becomes sharper. So you are totally in the moment. You are able to listen to what is said and what is not said. All right, without putting too much effort into it, because it becomes seamless. And because of your active listening, now you are able to pick up on the gems from the client, and you are able to come up with questions in the moment, which evoke awareness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So this is the 2 cents that I'm able to share.
Yeah, it's a beautiful 2 cents. And the thing that it really just sort of shines a light on also is how we need to tune our listening, not just at the words, but at all these multiple different levels of listening, and then test our assumptions and hypotheses by asking with curiosity, what does that mean to you? How does that show up for you? So that the client is always in that leadership position for the coach, and leading the coach through what's important to them. What are you up to in 2022 that you'd like to share with us? So we kind of alluded to your book, but please share more.
Well, it's going to be an exciting year, actually. The COVID came to us as a challenge, and we embraced that challenge, and it allowed us to evolve a lot. We created lots of programs and intensified our coaching presence with our clients, and it has been a blessing since then. Launching our new approach in coaching for the academy and launching other programs. 2022 is going to be more into developing and learning, continuous learning platform for coaches around the globe, which is going to be announced next year. And it goes by the name Transcendence, by the way, as well. So it's going to be a platform whereby you will be able to find lots of material and references and support for you to evolve as a coach in different practices. Number one, in the coaching field itself and how you can evolve further as a coach as part of your continuous development. And second would be how to support you to actually launch your business as a coach. We are in the field of supporting other people, but coaches need to sustain themselves. And I
Absolutely.
see lots of coaches coming, earning their certifications, and then not continue.
Yeah. In what? Right? I don't think we have good structures in many organizations or schools to really support what's next or what all's required in order to have a coaching business. Very few coaches that I know, you may be unique in this, but I have a suspicion that this will resonate for you also. Very few coaches have one thing they're doing. Many of them have multiple different things that they're doing that all begin to pull different revenue streams towards them, you know.
My support in that area and what I like to offer coaches, and this we embedded in our coaching, the name the Coaches Circle comes from this, is that we are a coaches circle, a community of coaches, a circle of different coaches, each specialized in his own niche. And to be able to support coaches to specialize in their own niche and not requiring to do many multiple matters, that means we need to educate them, support them also to launch a proper business and a profession to sustain themselves and even thrive. And it's definitely the right to become so much successful in that area, because guess what? Whenever they're successful, they are going to impact more people positively. Yes. Yeah. So we support our coaches as well in terms of personal branding, business development, marketing for entrepreneurs. And we are in 2022, we're going to even expand that more. So it's not going to be only for those who come to and be trained at our academy. We're going to offer that business kit for all the coaches around the globe, ACC, PCC, MCC. And given our background in the, like being previous professionals in marketing and sales and business development, we're going to transform all these 22 years of experience and put it in the hands of coaches so that they can really thrive in different markets. And one more thing, having the experience in 58 markets, I hope that I will be able to share all of that with people. Like, what do you need to do to tap into? We are in the virtual world and now it's a global community. Right. How can I coach and not to be trapped in cultural gaps? How would I approach and position myself as a coach first, crossing my message across borders, one. And second, when I coach, how to avoid cultural gaps. And this is very important. So I hope 2022 is going to allow me to put that in the service of the community. So that would be very much exciting.
Well, I will definitely be having links to your program below the podcast, so people will have an opportunity to reach out and go see what you're up to. Thank you so much for being on the Coaching Studio today. I have really appreciated having the opportunity to spend some time with you.
Same here.